Namaste. My name is Kirti, and on behalf of Himalayan Yoga Association, I welcome you all to this online teacher training course. I am a teacher here at Himalayan Yoga Association, and I will be taking you through the concepts and details of the human body and yoga altogether. Let's hope you enjoy this course. Let's start.
Namaste and welcome back to the online yoga teacher training course. In today's video, we are going to discuss the different obstacles thrown by the subconscious mind when you're walking down the path of yoga. But before we go ahead and do that, I request you to come and sit with me and chant the Gayatri Mantra as we always do before the beginning of every session. So simply sit straight with your spine completely erect, activate any mudra. I prefer the chin mudra, and close your eyes to focus on your breath. Observe the breath as it moves in and out of your body, and allow your breath to define the activity of your mind. Allow your breath to remain the only focus that you can think of right now. After taking a few inhalations and exhalations, slowly bring your hands in front of your chest, Namaskara Sthiti. Keep your eyes closed and your spine straight. Touch the heart center with the back of your thumbs. If you know the mantra, you can chant it with me. Otherwise, you can always repeat it afterwards. Slowly breathe in once. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Having absorbed the vibration and effect of the mantra, let's generate some energy between our palms by rubbing them against each other. After you feel this energy between your palms, cover your eyes and transfer this energy to your eyes straight away. Then touch your face, massage it, back of your neck, or anywhere else you wish to transfer this energy to. Please do not expose your eyes to light for now. Once again, fold your palms, bow down to your fingertips and the universal truth. With a few blinks, gently open your eyes and welcome back. So, someone who has read the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali can easily figure out how smart, how intelligent, and how observant Patanjali, the great sage, was. Not only was he able to collect and compile the entire information on the yogic knowledge that was available before and to him, he also went ahead and further experienced the whole thing by himself, through which he was able to set the guidelines for the future aspirants of enlightenment, future aspirants of yoga. Instead, when he was defining the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, he even went ahead and figured out the different obstacles that the mind will come up with in order for you to distract yourself from the path of yoga. Now, the subconscious mind is an entity in itself. The subconscious mind, because it feels that if everything changes with the help of yoga, if there is only positivity, if the human or the Atman, the soul, is able to control the mind itself, then it will not hold any power in itself. It will lose the freedom that it has to express and the freedom that it has to make us express whatever things that the mind feels. The subconscious mind, in a fit of rage, when he is about to experience transformation from this duality to this single conscience, he throws certain obstacles at the human being itself, while the human being is trying and struggling to transform into the ultimate human being. These 9 obstacles, namely observed by the great sage Patanjali himself, are Vyadhi or illness, Styana or mental laziness, Samasya or doubt, confusion, Pramada or procrastination, Alasya, sloth, another laziness, another form of laziness, a physical one, so to say, Avirati, sensual cravings, Bhranti Darshana, the illusion or the false perception that the mind creates in itself, another aspect of doubt, a sister concern, so to say, Alabdha Bhumikatva, or the ability to find any state of yoga. And the last one is Avasthitattvani, or the ability to maintain a state after having found higher levels of consciousness. All of these 9 obstacles come from the mind itself, but they are so strong that they can deter anyone from the path of yoga if they are strong enough to distract you. But of course, as a yogi, you're supposed to fight against these obstacles so that you can overcome all of these obstacles by yourself and make progress towards the 8th step, which is Samadhi. Let's talk about the first step, which is Vyadhi. Illness is a state of mind. I hope many of you would agree with me. For instance, the placebo effect, if you're aware of it, talks about thinking or consuming something, consuming a pill, any medicine, or just something which you think which may be able to heal your illness, but in reality it is not really the medicine, just presented as one. So there have been many instances and many stories of people who have been treated with the placebo effect, thinking that they are consuming medicines, but in reality they were just random elements, they were just sugar, salt or water, so to say. Just the mind believing that it will get better with the thought of consuming a medicine, just the mind believing that yes, now that I am consuming medicines, I will be fine, is enough for the mind to treat the physical body and the mind itself. The physical body, which obviously responds to the instructions of the mind, will respond to the illness and the treatment of the illness according to what the mind tells it to do. If the mind thinks that it is ill, then it won't be able to progress in the journey. At the same time, I wonder if you've heard of this one Western person called as Wim Hof, who apparently climbed the Mount Everest without any clothes on. There are various examples in the name of yoga in India itself. These sages, these rishis, these seers, they live in extreme conditions without any food, shelter or space to them, and they're able to survive year after year in the name of tapas itself. What I'm trying to explain to you is, whatever the mind believes it can do, it will be able to do it. Granted, you have control over it. If these obstacles have control over your conscious mind, then naturally they will overpower and result in illness, not just of the mind, but also of the physical body itself. The second obstacle that the mind throws at the time of your yogic path journey is Styana or mental laziness. Now, there are 2 types of laziness, of course. One is the physical type and one is the mental type. The mental laziness is the worst kind of laziness, because at the end of the day, all that we do in yoga, all the journey is towards tampering or converting, transforming the mind into something which is controlled by the soul itself, instead of giving control to the mind. If mental laziness is very strong inside the brain, inside the mind, then it will result in physical laziness as well. The ability to not wanting to move is even worse than the ability to not being able to move physically as well. So, mental laziness is one thing that needs to be eradicated. If you experience mental laziness, if you come across people who are regular people having a lot of laziness mentally as well, or not really wanting to make progress, then you should point it out directly so that you can help them transform or curb down this habit of reducing mental laziness inside their lives, inside their minds. Samasya or doubt. If you have read the Bhagavad Gita and many epics, the many epics of the Hindu culture has a lot of different stories wherein human beings, wherein gods who are worshipped in the Indian culture as well, they have expressed samasya, they have expressed doubts wherever they were supposed to perform their duties. There have been many instances. The whole Bhagavad Gita in itself is evidence to the fact or evidence to the conversation of Arjuna, who is experiencing samasya or doubt right when the battle between the human beings is about to start. And it is Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita who is telling him or clearing his doubts as someone who is guiding him in this whole journey towards yoga. So doubt is a state of mind. Being confused is a state of mind. All of these things, they come from the mind itself, and these are the obstacles that the subconscious mind throws whenever the transformation is about to happen. If you have doubts whether you should do this, are you ready for this? Will it turn out to be good? Will the result be positive? What will I get with this? Should I not do this? All of these things are self-doubting, and they help you in achieving nothing in your life, because even by doing something wrong, you still achieve something wrong. If you're doing something right, you still achieve something right. But if you're having doubts in your mind, then you're not doing anything at all, which will never bear any fruits. And a wise person can learn from any situation, but he will never doubt itself. So, samasya is something that needs to be overcome. If you're in a regular habit of doubting your own self, then you should not do that, because that is something that you are just creating in your mind, but in reality, you are very much capable of overcoming any hurdles, any obstacles that come in front of you, whether they are physical or mental in nature. Remember, yoga at the end of the day is only a state of mind. Pramada or procrastination. Procrastination, if we talk about procrastination in our everyday lives as well, then procrastination starts from the mind. Thinking thoughts like, I will do it tomorrow, but that tomorrow never comes. I will do it later, let me do this right now. Then in that case, the mind is indulging in something which it's enjoying. In other words, we can also say that procrastination means that you have allowed the mind to take control, and you are just being controlled by the subconscious mind, which is not yogic at that moment. Procrastination is not just applicable in case of office work, in case of things that you need to do, going to the market. Procrastination applies to everything that you do, and procrastination is a bad, negative habit of the mind itself. If you are able to throw out procrastination out of the mind, then you will end up becoming more productive. A lot of times people have this complaint that life has become so complicated, so busy that I do not get time for anything. Remember, productivity will set you free. If you're spending too much time doing something, then you're only procrastinating. But if you're giving in your 100% and being productive at the same time immediately, then procrastination will go out of the window and it will bear positive results. Also, it will set you free earlier than you were intended to. Procrastination delays the results as well. So, if you are someone who experiences procrastination coming from your mind a lot, please change this habit in yourself and remember, human beings being creatures of habits, the mind will train itself to not procrastinate and stay active all the time. If you haven't experienced this, go ahead and try this yourself. The next obstacle that the mind throws at you is alasya. Alasya, sloth, is physical laziness. Physical laziness can happen because of many reasons. Maybe you haven't eaten enough. In that case, the body is not feeling energetic enough. It's feeling very lethargic. Maybe there is something wrong inside your body. In that case, there is some sort of illness taking place inside your physical body. But if at all you're able to point out these problems in your everyday life, that you are a regular sloth person, if you experience physical laziness or not, then you should figure out the cause behind it and you should work on eliminating this cause so that you can experience perfection and so that you can give in your 100% in everything you do. If you're lazy, then you will not be able to experience productivity. If you're lazy, then there is always going to be a lot of things to do, but just because you're not doing anything, you will never be able to achieve anything out of those tasks at hand. Please experience productivity instead of laziness. Observe yourself, inquire yourself, think about your weaknesses and think about your mistakes. Think about where you went wrong in your everyday tasks. If at all you can point out to this could be the cause behind my physical laziness, which is again thrown from the mind itself, then you should work towards curbing down this problem so that you don't feel lethargic, so that you don't feel illusion, so that you are able to give in your 100%. And if you still find time to do other things apart from staying lazy, then you can always put all of that extra time after being productive into meditating and personal self-growth. Avirati, the sixth obstacle, as mentioned by the great sage Patanjali, talks about the sensual cravings of the mind. Of course, the mind enjoys indulging in things which are not helpful for our personal growth. Sugar is delicious, but it also makes us sick, obese, unhealthy. Laziness is very relaxing, but at the same time, it limits physical growth and productivity. Things like this, indulgences of the mind, which satisfy these physical senses, are all about the sensual cravings that come from the mind. Remember, these sensual cravings are the instruments through which the mind collects the data about whenever it wants to create an impression. Unless or until you haven't seen anything, the mind will never know anything about what a certain thing looks like. If you haven't smelled anything, then the mind will not know how a certain thing smells like. All of these sensual cravings, they are there to satisfy the five senses of the human being. And remember the stage of pratyahar. Pratyahar is about withdrawal of the senses so that you can go further inside the mind and transform it out of committing it as a habit. Avirati, the sensual cravings. Do not give in to your sensual cravings. Realize what is good for you. Realize what is good for your spiritual growth as well as your personal physical growth. Realize certain things are really good to experience, but they are not really great for personal growth. Eliminate these things out of your life. Eliminate these things out of your cravings list. Instead, crave for positivity. Crave for deeper levels of meditation. Crave for more advanced asanas. Crave for a deeper understanding of the 8 limbs of yoga. Crave for a better journey towards the enlightenment or samadhi. The physical things, the sensual things, the indulgences of the mind are another element through which it remains attached to negativity. If you do not get those, then the mind will always go back to them. Your work as a yogi is to eliminate those cravings from the mind so that the mind does not take control. Instead, you take control of the mind. Now, the seventh obstacle of the minds or the subconscious mind is Bhranti Darshana, which means an illusion or a false perception. The ego of the mind is something which makes us think of things in a very possessive manner. My things are different than your things. It is mine. I am the greatest. I am the tallest. I am the most flexible. I am the most good looking. All of these things are illusions of the mind. Remember, at the end of the day, your achievements, your physical achievements, they are useless by the time you reach the time of your death. You cannot carry this body with you. The ego is what creates the impression of certain things. If you have a very self-centered ego, then the results or the output of the conscious mind will also be biased towards yourself. If you have a very self-centered ego, then the input, whatever you receive, will also be biased towards your treatment or how you see certain things instead of the reality that they come with. Always remember, Bhranti Darshana or the false perception of things is always there in the mind. There are always two sides of a story. There is always another side to the coin. You need to realize both the sides of the coin and come up with an impression which is non-biased, not just towards you, not just towards the other entity, but towards the happiness or towards the in favor of either of the parties involved. And this is how you're able to create a single conscience which is not biased in either directions. This is how you will be, after practicing and figuring out the false perception, throwing it out of your life, you will be able to create an impression in which the friend and the enemy both are the same to you, and you will treat both of them equally with the same love, same joy, the same single conscience that you have throughout everyday life. The eighth obstacle that is thrown towards you by the mind is alabdha bhumikatva. This is the ability to find any state of yoga. So many times, as we age, as we progress, we experience certain things and we get satisfied with it, we become stagnant with it. Yoga is a journey which progresses every day depending on the level of indulgence you're giving into your spiritual side. The ability to find any yogic state, the ability to not progress in any journey is another poison to the conscious mind. The ability to not find any state of yoga is an illness of the mind itself. Maybe you are trying very hard but you're not able to make any progress. Again comes from the mind, and if you are experiencing this, then you need to go back to your roots. You need to go back to where you went wrong. Maybe there is something missing in your practice. Maybe there is something missing in your mental conscience that you need to change. Maybe there is something that you need to add to your practice in order to make progress. The ability to find any yogic state is only natural for the human beings because yoga is the extreme bliss that you can experience. It is not easy, of course, but it is definitely worth it. Also, it is not impossible for anyone to not reach any stages of yoga. Every stage of yoga is like a progression to the previous step, and every progression requires further dedication, further devotion, further hard work into accomplishing these different levels. Just like how we have video games, every level is a certain level, it gets difficult by the time you reach the end. Similarly, the yogic journey is progressing and getting more difficult by the time you get closer to enlightenment. In that state, if you're not able to find even the simplest of things, the very first stage of spiritual progression, then you need to again go back to your roots, go back to the yamas and the niyamas of your mind, of your psyche, understand where you went wrong. Sometimes the change needs to come from within, and sometimes it's very subtle that it's overlooked a lot. So, figure out where you're going wrong, revise your entire yogic journey, revise your habits. If you need to bring about any change, go ahead and do that. And I promise you, you will be able to make progress in your journey. Granted, you're doing everything according to how it's been told to you. The last obstacle of the mind is anavasthitat-tatvani. Anavasthitat-tatvani is the ability to maintain any state of yoga. So many times, even though I would say it is almost at par with alabdha bhumi katvani, because you are not able to maintain any state of yoga, even though you may have reached or made progress, but you're not able to sustain that whole thing. You may have reached higher levels in your yogic journey, but you're not able to make progress, and you always come down to the basic levels. In that case, you need more dedication, you need more devotion. In that case, you have been affected by the other 9 obstacles, and that is why you need to stay and maintain the faith in your own personal journey. Maintain the faith in the progress that you are making. Have faith in your own self. Do not give in to the conscious mind. The ability to sustain is very vital, otherwise life will become stagnant and progress will be completely lost. If ever you reach any stages, self-inquire, swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means self-study. Always continue self-studying yourself, whether you're at the stage when you're experiencing alabdha bhumikatva or whether you're experiencing anavastikatvani. Both of these stages require self-study, understanding where you went wrong, understanding what you did right. 2 different aspects of the coin. One is to understand where you went wrong, and the other is what you did right. When you realize what you did right, you can maintain it and also understand what else can you do in order to make progress, in order to make positive progress. Keep on adding those positive elements. This will help you progress further in your journey to enlightenment. I request you all to go through and inquire with yourselves these obstacles. Give it a very deep thought. What you understand about these 9 obstacles of the mind. How can you maintain or restrict these 9 obstacles of the mind? And I also would like to inform you that if you have contained and if you have controlled all of these 9 obstacles, then you must be an enlightened human being. It's only human to make mistakes, so do not be too harsh on yourself. Don't get too hard on yourself. Just realize that by making mistakes, do we understand where we went wrong and what we need not do in order to make progress. I hope you enjoyed today's session. I hope you found this information very informative. I will see you again. Until then, thank you and namaste.